listen to it, another layer of meaning will be added. So this is a little video clip that I put together. It's like a metaphor for what happens in ATM. Because what often doesn't happen is that you do the complete action in its whole totality first. Definitely, very often what doesn't happen is that the person teaching the class shows you what the movement is. Yeah. But in the process of doing that, you get a little piece there, and then a little piece here, and a little piece there. And after a while, those pieces start to have a little bit of meaning. And as the lesson goes on, they have more and more meaning. So this is the visual metaphor, which is based on that whole visual perception stuff that Bo Lotto was doing with you yesterday. It's a little bit silly, but that's all right. You know I don't mind that. So here we go. There's no sound. Okay, have you already started to construct a little story? Yeah? Good? Oh, no. Of course, it's the Pac-Man go to lunch, right? No. That's a very historical reference. Are you counting the triangles? Yeah, I have. And you know, if I had as much pizzazz as Bo Lotto, I'd be telling you no, but there are no triangles. There are no triangles. Your past experience and also the way your visual system is put together, in other words, your hardwiring, you see triangle, you perceive a triangle. And I can be sometimes a pedant for language, but if we're going to use language as a way of describing our experiences and our understanding of things, then the distinction between seeing and perceiving is an essential distinction, in the same way as the distinction between sensing and perceiving. Yeah. So let... There are no triangles. There are no triangles. No, they're just really, there is not a triangle there. Sorry? Sorry? Oh yeah, all of that. So you constructed a story. So in your perception, this is where it's really important to make this distinction, and this is where the philosopher comes out in me, because a lot of difficulties in the sciences, in human communication, is often associated with a confusion or a conflation of different words. So if I say to you, you see no triangles, I'm talking about the raw data there. There is nothing there that is a bounded line that in geometry you learned was a triangle. There is no such bounded line there. It's not there. I don't care how you describe a triangle, isosceles, doesn't really matter. There is none there. You make that closure. That closure is in the big brain. You're making that closure. But, of course, that statement only makes sense if you have a distinction between sensing and perceiving. If there's no distinction, then we're encountering a language problem. I say one thing, you say seeing is perceiving, no difference. Well, okay, then I have to agree with you. So let's play on. It's not much longer. Sorry. Are you still counting the triangles? So, what are you actually seeing? No. What are you actually seeing? No. What are you actually seeing? Yes. Here we go. Contrasts. You're seeing contrasts. What else are you actually seeing? Yeah, you see shape. You see form. Yeah. You don't even see, yeah. So you're already interpreted that those shades and shapes and contrasts, they're trees. And then some of you have taken it the next step further and you see those trees as a face. But when you see the face, guess what happens? You stop seeing the trees. Yeah. Unless, of course, you're a visual artist and then you can see everything all at once. So this is where our skills come into play. And I put this together just to show you that this is actually the same thing that's going on in ATM. Yeah? At any moment in time, you lying on the floor, there are so many sensations going on in there. They're just sensations. It's raw data. Until you pay attention to it, you pick up some of those sensations, and before you know it, you've made meaning out of it. Oh, I'm lying on my left side. Oh, I'm moving my right arm. Oh, that hurts. Before you made that meaning, it was just a sensation. Like every other sensation, might not have even reached consciousness. That's what's going on all the time. Yeah.
Sorry. So pressing into my shoulder.
Holding onto the orange box. Yeah. Yes.
So slipping away.
Yeah, that's okay. Stay with it.
No, it's the idea that, all right, it's a perception as well as a sensation.
Yeah.
So that then when I move it away and press into another area, is that, oh,
Yeah.
you're messing with my head.
This messes with your head.
It messes with my head.
This is when you read Feldenkrais talking about it. He said, there was a moment I just had to give it up. He didn't say it in those words, but basically because it was messing with my head. It makes you question the whole foundation of reality. That's what it does.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I can get there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that the bottom of this triangle isn't there in reality.
Yeah. And you see, this whole segment has been built up on that. This whole new push in the cognitive sciences towards embodied cognition. So it's crazy to say, well, you know, if I close my eyes, this is the old way of thinking. If I close my eyes, the rest of the world doesn't exist. Well, no, it does. It's just that it's not predetermined what's out there. It's based on your body, your sensory apparatus. The world of the fly, through the fly's eye, is a very different world. The world through a dog's nose is a very different world. So each animal occupies a different world in a totally different way, according to the shape of its body, according to the kinds of receptors it has. Some human beings are sensitive to magnetic fields. Most are not. Many animals are sensitive to magnetic fields, including cows, because they line up. They line up. When they stand in the field, they've done, you know, people get funded for this kind of research. They stand in the field and they all line up with their heads to magnetic north. They do. And if they're... Yeah. Yeah. And the whole herd, or whatever you call a bunch of cows, I don't know, herd, yeah? But if those cows are in a field with, you know, those big heavy-duty electrical wires, they just scatter. They can't find magnetic north anymore. So that's like weird. When I heard that, I got... Now, termites can do that. They build their mounds with a magnetic north. Yeah? So there are animals in there. There are animals in this world that occupy a very, very different world than we do. Which tells you it's not the one world, but there is something out there. It's just not reality with a capital R. It's a reality with a little r. Now, what happens in these lessons, as you start to move yourself differently, and as you're able to assume different states, emotional, mental, physical, whatever you want to call them, the world changes. Like Bo Lotto said, the person in front of you changes, not because they've changed, but because you've changed. Yeah. That's what makes every Feldenkrais lesson the same also. That's happening in every lesson. So that's why this gets so, embodied cognition gets really so interesting. If Feldenkrais was alive today, he'd be kicking this soccer ball around. He once read a book by one of the founders of the School of Embodied Cognition, a guy by the name Francesco J. Varela. And he said of that book, he said, "This is one of the best books I've ever read." And it's like, oh, okay. But you see, he was too old. So don't worry, in a few years' time, there'll be something else, and that'll be a whole new kettle of fish. But this is very different to saying this is a reality, and what we do is, you heard Bo Lotto say this yesterday. Do you believe in illusions? Because if you believe in illusions, that infers that there is a reality with a capital R out there, and what you're generating in your mind is incorrect relative to that. But what happens in these lessons? Well, do it in a way that you think is correct, and then revise, and then revise, and then revise. Revise on the new perception. And then there'll be another new perception, and then another new perception. But if you get so locked in to going, no, this is my way of doing it, you stuff off. Well, you're kind of locked in. Well, my father never did it like that. It was good enough for him. Why should I do it like that? Yep. Now you know why there's not that many guys in this room. There's something about that. Something about that. So that's what I've been kind of the undercurrent of everything I've been offering you, couched in the terms of perception. If you shape yourself in a different way, if you act in a different way, the sensations appear to you in a different way. Just like those collection of dots and lines, they collated and you saw triangles. Or some of you made the Pac-Man go to a picnic scenario, which is what I saw this morning as I was reviewing the video. I'm going, oh, that's a nice story. Pac-Man. Yes, Pac-Man. Shall we go to a picnic? Yes, let's go to a picnic. Oh, what shall we eat? Let's eat some lines. Okay. Would you like angled lines? Yes, I like angled lines. Where are they? So you see, that's what goes on in your mind. And now you know that you have a crazy teacher in front of you. But that's what's happening all the time. Not Pac-Man, but we create the world that we experience on prior experience, and the only way to interrupt that is to just open yourself up a little bit. Okay. Over to you. I think I've said enough.
This is good. So, like, this guy was, he's a masseuse, but he was like a really interesting, insightful kind of massage, like genuine guy. And he shared this with me, so it's completely borrowed, but really related to embodied cognition. And he just put it down as like, because it's sometimes really hard to talk with words and all of that. But, so he put this like big circle, as in like the embodied totality of the capital R of reality. Like with a capital R. And then he put like, maybe, for instance, this is me. Yeah. Living in this circle. That little thing. It's probably even smaller than that if it was to like real scale size. But that's me. That's like where I'm in. And it's like, yes, it's limited. And like, you know, this, let's put another few people in here. And then like, and maybe some overlap, you know, there's like commonalities. So we're like all interacting. And there's ones over here, and it could just keep going on. Some people maybe a bit bigger, smaller, whatever, who's to judge or whatever. But the essence of it is that our embodied realities, no matter how limited, are still real. They're real enough. Like they're still within that. There's no like judgment of right and wrong or like less or more as such. But the capacity for everybody is the more, I guess, our self-image expands and breaks the boundaries and keeps going, that relatability will become more all-encompassing. And I just say it's more in tune with like the, you know, the big circle as that. So I just thought that was of nice relevance and value with that.
I just said that what you're saying is, that with the Feldenkrais that I've gone through for the last 2 weeks, it's a bit like we're all elite, learning how elite athletes or elite whatever, like scientists or whatever, they're seeing not life through why they're seeing how, like how you are. So we're seeing how we do things. So through Feldenkrais, it's like we're being elite athletes, but we're not. But we're doing the same sort of thing that elite athletes do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So just what you were just
Yep.
saying.
And the big how word, yes? How?
Yes, how we're doing everything.
How?
Yeah, and that's why elite people can, because they've worked out how, they're not just going, oh, I can do that. They're trying to work out how. And it's, with this Feldenkrais, it's all about how you're doing it.
Yep. Yep. They're willing to call on anything to get that little bit more of an insight into how. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, I agree. It ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. It ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. It ain't what you do, but the way that you do it. That's what gets results. That's about as much as you'll ever hear me sing in this training program. So let's bring it back to, given that I've now sung you that little song, let's bring it back to something Feldenkrais was talking about a little bit in that video this morning, and that we looked at a little bit last week. You remember this little place here where the skull sits on top of the, yeah? So I was playing a little bit with that, and this guy is bungee-ized. He's actually got, but I can actually lift him off a little bit. So let me try to do this. You see, you can actually go, ooh, yeah? Now, as soon as you do that, look. Can you see that movement there? That's the movement that Feldenkrais was talking about. As your hands go up in prayer, that happens. As your hands go down, that happens. Can you see the skeleton swaying? Now, I'll be more delicate because I'm using, so. Sorry. Good handler. Can you see that? Now that is a tiny movement. And some of you were doing that in that lesson. More complicated though. Not just involving the first vertebra. Some of you were doing. Can you see it's not just turning. It's turning, nodding, turning, nodding, turning, nodding, turning, nodding. And look, he now turns and nods. Everything turns, tilts forward, turns, tilts. Yeah? That's what you were doing all in that lesson. When you went really small. If you can get it all the way up here, you get the same feeling doing that lesson as you did doing this. Matter of fact, when you strip away all the languaging around that lesson is trying to get you all the way up into here. Yeah, so that's what's happening. And of course, that creates quite a different state in people. That's why there's this whole system developed by Upledger called craniosacral therapy. Yeah? And they do these tiny little rocking movements, and you'd have a session and it's like, oh my God, I felt like this for a long time. And it's delicate and it's small and it works. Yeah? So this is an important place. This whole area is a really important place because this is how we mostly relate to the world. Two ways that we mostly relate to the world. Through here and through here. And another way. These little guys, the pets. And when you look at the motor strip and the sensory strip, the homunculus up here in the brain, the representation, what Feldenkrais calls the body image, guess which parts of the body are the biggest? Matter of fact, the hands are so big you wonder they'd be dragging along. Yeah? The feet are huge. The rest of the body is like really tiny. So it tells you that these places are really important places in the schema of the body. Really important. And as soon as you organize this place a little bit differently, your whole state changes. As soon as you start to use your hands differently, your state changes. As soon as you move your feet a little differently, hooking the big toe, your state changes. So you've kind of been through that. And yeah. Now, having presented that information, any questions or comments? It's the essence. Yeah. Oh, if you were to draw a stick figure, it'll look like this. It'll look really crazy. It'll look like head, big feet, big hands, huge lips. Yeah, whoa, big. I am Mick Jagger. That's not bad, actually. That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
That's what they're called. And so they have a head, and they often put a belly button. So they'll have.
Oh, please, you want to draw it up on the board? Please. Oh, thank you. That'd be great. You can rub up the rest. That's unimportant now. Tadpoles are much more important. Generated with the same spirit.
To do this his whole life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then they'll do this. And that's not a mouth.
That's a
Their
navel.
belly button. No. They draw a belly button, and then when they actually realise that their bodies, they've got a body. Oh, hang on. I'll do this.
Take your time. No hurry. Ah.
Oh, so no, sorry, the head is always bigger. And the belly button does go here. Then the arms come out here.
Yeah.
They have no necks. And have really big hands. And then they might do this.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course they
Nice.
always do this. And sometimes they will do this. And then they will do that.
Big smile.
But then it's very rarely put ears on or hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Belly button is very important. No spine? No.
Children don't even know they have a spine.
Yeah, they call it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of the people that Feldenkrais got inspiration from was a lady, I think I've mentioned her in this room, was a lady by the name of Gerda Alexander. And she was over in Germany, and she founded the school called Eutony. And she said of Feldenkrais, he stole all my ideas, but he made things out of them that I never would have thought of. Yeah. In that school, one of the first things that get you to do is to be quiet in yourself, and then either in drawing or a clay model, make a representation of yourself as you feel yourself. Not as what you remember in the mirror, but how you feel yourself. And then that becomes the basis. As you grow in your self-image, you keep on making these models and you see them change shape. That's a nice thing to do. You know? Rather than remembering, you know, buy yourself some plasticine, make a model, do a whole week of ATM, make a model at the end of the week, do a scan before each ATM and go, because just like that child's drawing, this is when I saw that, Philippa, there are sometimes that I make a scan and there is no leg. It's like torso, 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 foot. No leg. Sometimes this eye is skewed down here and this one's up here. It's really strange when you start to become attuned to that. Some parts, some days, body parts just simply disappear. And then you do the lesson and then they reappear, thank God. Yeah? So that's a nice practice. You know, if you want to have that modeling practice, it's a nice way of tracking. It really is. And you'll find that your self-image does change on a day-to-day basis. Anything else? That was great. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, please do. That's what this time is for.
To graphic something. This is in the facts area.
Oh, good.
It was interesting when we heard about Moshe Feldenkrais talking, you talk about he came from a Jewish family, and the Jewish Hasidic
roots.
Yeah, they think or they believe God is in everything. I study this kind of
the Shekinah.
Huh?
Shekinah. Shekinah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry, I interrupted. Please continue. Sorry.
I study Kabbalah.
Yeah.
And this is the mysticism Jewish. And we learn about there is some information in the letters, in the Hebrew letters. And the letter L for learning in Hebrew, it's like this. Okay? It's like this. It's all the letters in Hebrew, most of the letters are in this level.
Yep.
The letter L goes up, means here is one letter, is the Vav, is one letter, and this is the Chav, is another letter. Means that L letter is composed by two letters, the Vav and the Chav. This connect with divine intellects, and this is the material world, our kabed means liver. Liver. This letter in Hebrew, learning, it lamed. This letter is called lamed. And if I want to say in Hebrew learning, I said limud.
Limud.
Lamed, limud. It means this letter is learning. just to see this letter, it's about learning something.
Yeah.
And it's interesting in the video from today, and when he said you pray and he doesn't.
That's because you're an atheist.
Because it means that it doesn't matter what are you, if your head is here searching divine illumination if you don't do something here,
Ah.
because it's correlated.
It has
They
to
are
be
not
grounded,
separate things.
organic, has to be organic.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
something that you do, and not what you do, is how you do, how you pray. Are you praying like this, or are you really trying to connect with your body, with yourself, what you need, and try to vibrate in a same vibration and Hasidic movement, love people happy.
Yes.
And happiness and dancing and music and everything.
That's great. Thank you very much. I had no idea. Did anybody? Huh? So, wow.
This is deepest knowledge of Kabbalah.
Well, yes, and he would be privy to that. So you see, like, yes, everything is situated. Everything's embedded. We don't create ideas out of nothing. Just like Paolotto said, the idea that you come up with, for you, it's sitting right there. So for Feldenkrais, it's that notion of those two things, the organic link to the divine. For Feldenkrais, that's right there. That's in his heritage. Of course he'd think like that. Yes. Yes. And so the more perspectives that you have, the different kind, then you start to know, I can ask this kind of question and I can think in this kind of way, or I can ask this kind of question and think in that kind of way. And just like Paolotto said, that as soon as you ask a different kind of question, as soon as you relate through your different experiences to the world in a different way, that brings something either closer to your field of possibility or sends other things further away. Well, when I heard that, I thought, wow, that's really important, because I tend to live in my head. Yeah, but that's really nice. I had no idea. And you see, that's the kind of knowledge that I find interesting. Because to understand this method means to understand everything that this guy came into contact with, because it found its way in. It's in there. So if you know something about judo can help your understanding of this method. If you know something about Kabbalah and the sacred writing, that will help you. If you know something about science and the practice of science, that will help you. If you know something about Gurdjieff, because Feldenkrais came into contact with Gurdjieff, that everything, he draws on everything and he uses those parts that make sense for him and those he works with. So it really is grounded in the organic. Has to work organically. Has to work. Yeah. If it's an idea and it's abstracted away from the organic and it doesn't work, in other words, it has no foundation in this person's experience, and he just goes, next idea, please. And that's how you'll be in your practice. You'll draw on your history and you'll be generative. You'll generate from your own sense and you'll create things that will make sense for people. And that is the practice of the method. How do you generate? How do you create stuff out of everything that you know and then assist? Now that's not a teacher, that's a facilitator. Would you agree, Jenny? Yes, she says. Sorry. All right, let's finish off with a lesson. And I'll preface this lesson with the final Feldenkrais belief that I'll tell you for this segment. And this is the belief. This is a belief about society. And it is a belief because there's so many different opinions and there's so many different perspectives. But fundamentally, Feldenkrais was, as well as being atheist, he was also an anarchist. So he didn't believe in governments. He didn't believe that there should be a state. He believed that the best society that you could make is to elevate each individual to this level, where they're connected with their organic self and they have ethics. And then what you have is a collection of people in society of great maturation. And then you can have a society, oh, you want to do this together? Great, let's do this project. Oh, you don't want to do that? You don't go, oh, you're bad. You go, okay, you do that. No one interferes with each other. And that's the kind of society he believed was the right kind of society. And that was one of his motivations to going to Palestine as a 14-year-old. So 2 motivations, actually 3 motivations. He saw his father behaving in a way that was not like that. He was a teenage boy with teenage hormones. And 3, the vision of Zionism and that anarchy, that collectivism. Those 3 things were enough to send him away from home, across Europe, to Palestine. Now, you don't have to do that, but each lesson is kind of like that journey. You give up a little bit of that to do a little bit of this, and there's a new social reorganization. Kind of like a metaphor. Yeah? So that's what he believed. And in this next lesson, that's what we try to do a little bit. So I'll be asking you at a certain point in the lesson, can you stay with yourself? Can you stay connected with what you're doing? In other words, the form of your intent. And can you also connect with the people immediately around you? So that your awareness goes, me, what I'm doing with others. Does that make sense? Me, what I'm doing, and what I'm doing with others. Yep. And all right, so please find your place on the floor, lie on your back. Now you know why I asked you to come closer together, because if you're all dispersed everywhere, it's hard to know what